So there's a tournament coming, but what kind of tournament would it be without a proper stadium to fight in? We're gonna find out how to make one in this episode of the Crafty Halfling. Hello everybody, and again, this is the Crafty Halfling, and before we get started, I just want to say thank you again to everybody that is currently subscribed to my channel. My channel is growing every day slowly, and I cannot thank you guys enough for the support that I'm already getting on this new channel. But anyways, we're going to get started, and what we are building today is something I actually have yet to build yet. I'm actually going to be building a stadium of sorts for my campaign coming up this Sunday. My heroes, which you follow me on Instagram and Twitter, know that they're in a kingdom called Dareth, and they are currently ready to embark in a stadium championship for a current event that is happening. And I could have just, you know, taken the simple route and used one of my bigger dungeon tiles that I have that's made out of stone, laid it down, and use it as a, stadium. But I wanted to make something new, something to show my players Sunday, kind of surprise them with. And what fun would it be to just throw down a dungeon tile when I can, make something really interesting for really cheap? So we're going to find out how to do that right now. Okay, so what I have right here is actually a piece of foam board that I got for Walmart. This was only, I'd say, $2, maybe cheaper. I think it was $1.78. And for what I'm making, I only used one piece of this and saw some excess, but I did get extra for any future projects I decided to do. So I've already taken and I have cut the pieces I'm going to need. And again, this is going to be a super simple project, super cheap, super quick. And I have cut it into the correct sizes. So this is going to be my base floor, and the edges are 5 inches long, and each of the sidings are 2 inches high by 5 inches long themselves. One side is a little longer due to a measurement screw up on my end, but it's okay. It's going to turn out just fine. So this is something I actually have yet to craft. So this is going to be a kind of learn as I go process for me and for you guys. So let's get started. So I've decided to leave this without any kind of bevels or details because instead of having a stone flooring, I actually want to make this a dirt flooring. So for now, we're going to leave this alone, but we're going to move to the stadium walls. These are the walls, and normally for my dungeon tiles, I use a insulation foam, and the way I would add details of the walls is all I do is I take aluminum foil, ball it up, roll it across the surface, and it adds a really nice stone texture to it. This stuff is a little thicker on the outside, so aluminum foil is not going to work very well on this. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a pen and I'm going to bevel around, just some lines deep in, so that when I paint over top of it, it gives it like a nice, textured look. So we're going to do that right now. Okay, so this is what I have from beveling the sides of this foam board. You can't tell from the video, but where I dragged the pen across, there's actually like small little rivets that when you paint over top of them is going to give it like a cracked stone look. Okay, so if you watch my video on making terrain boards, then I'm going to do something similar to this like I do with the terrain boards. To give it like a dirt floor look, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some Elmer's glue and a paintbrush, and I'm going to cover this in some Elmer's glue. Then we're going to take the same Tiny Treasure sand material that I have and sprinkle some on top. I'm not going to cover the entire surface. I'm going to do probably most of it, but I'm going to leave some spots. And then we're going to let that dry. And once it dries, I'm actually going to paint over top of it like a brownish dirt color. Going to get a good amount of glue. You don't need as much as you would for the terrain board, but you want a decent amount to get this thoroughly covered. Alright, and that's good enough. You can't really see the amount of it that's on here because it's white and white, but that's fine. So we're going to take the sand and start pouring. Again, just like the terrain board, it's going to look like we're using a hefty amount, but you're going to get 90% of it back. Alright, let's go ahead and tap this off. And that is actually perfect compared to what I wanted to do. So we're going to let this dry for a little bit because I'm actually going to paint over top of where the sand is, but I don't want to ruin anything of what I have. So we're going to move on to the stadium walls next. Okay, so I've got our stadium walls, and I've just got some basic gray paint, and we're just going to go over top of this with a couple layers of gray. As you can see when I'm painting over top of it, some of these cracks are starting to show, and that's exactly what I wanted. Okay, and we're going to do both sides. So do one side for all of them, let them dry. By the time you finish all of them, they should start drying. You flip it over and do the other side. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to paint these all real quick. Okay, so we have the front side of the walls done, and they are currently drying. And I'm going to go over top of these with another layer of a dry brush of a lighter gray to give it more of a stone look, but we'll do that later. Now this is currently pretty well dried. The sand is in place for the most part, and I'm just going to take a basic brown and go over top of this to give it that look I want to give it. I'm going to go over this entire thing, probably with a couple layers of this brown paint. So this is what we end up with. Now there are a few white spots on it, and I am going to go over top of this with another coat of paint a little later. But as you can tell, where I put the sand and dirt at after painting over top of it is giving it like a raised, dirt floor look, and that's what I want. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to give this another layer, and I'm also going to do the back sides of the walls, and we will continue after that. Alright, so next, now that I've got a second layer of brown paint on the dirt floor, and I've painted both sides of the stone walls, I'm actually going to take and do a little bit of dry brush detailing on them. This is why I didn't cover them fully in gray. You notice there's some white spots on here, but that's okay because I'm going for that, that grainy, natural stone look. So I'm going to take some black and white, and I'm going to make a very, very, very light gray color that's even lighter than this to dry brush over top to give it that, more stone look. So I have a very small amount of white, and I'm going to take a very, very, very light amount of black and put right next to it. As you can tell, if you can see from here, it's over there. Very, very light amount. And I'm going to take an old brush, an old frayed brush. This is pretty old. You can tell the edges on it are pretty frayed. And I'm going to dip in the white and the black together off this side. And I get this really nice light gray color. Honestly, I could probably use a little more white even. There you go. So it's lighter than this color. And I'm going to brush most of that off what I have. And then I'm going to go over top of this. And you can see it's giving it a nice stone look. This is the same technique that I use for my dungeon tiles. The dungeon tiles get a little more detail because they are made out of XPS foam, and I can get more grooves and edges on XPS foam easier than I can this foam board. But again, I was going for cost efficiency and time with this project. I could have done this out of XPS foam, but it would have taken me a lot longer to cut it and to make it look how I wanted to look. And if you can see, the left is what it looks like with the dry brushing technique, and the right is just a great paint, and it makes a load of a difference if you do this dry brushing on almost any kind of paint project. It adds so much more detail, and it takes literally seconds to do to your pieces. So the next step is going to be to glue the stone walls on. So just like in my terrain video, I'm going to be using Loctite, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the Loctite on the edges of the walls borders, and just stick these on there, hold it for a few seconds, and let it dry, because this stuff dries super fast. And we're just going to do that to all the surrounding walls. Alright, so all the walls are now on, everything's glued, everything is tight and dried, and it looks okay. It doesn't look too bad. For it only cost me $2 for the foam and maybe $3 in paint. So if you want to throw something together real quick for your play group, if you're having any kind of tournament, anything of those kinds of sorts, you know, making one of these for $2 and a half hour to an hour at a time, you can't really beat it. So as you can see, if you add in, you know, some props and some minis, which I have now, this doesn't look that bad for a couple dollar build. So that's it, guys. That is the, you know, mini stadium that I just built. It was my first time ever building it. It's not perfect, but you know, that's okay. It cost me under $5 because I already had the paint and you know, the glue and whatnot. But even if you don't have the paint and some other materials, the foam, the paint, a small set of brushes, and the glue itself is only going to run you under $10. So a small build like that for under $10, and you get all the extra supplies that you're going to have to use in the future anyways, can't beat it. I recommend using it. We're going to use it this Sunday for our little tournament we have going on, and I hope you guys enjoy it. But before I go, I just want to say, again, if you subscribe and you're one of my first 100 subscribers, I am going to be giving away a set of my dungeon tiles, as you may or may not know. So don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button in the little thing down here below. I'm the Crafty Halfling, and I'll see you guys next time.